Alright guys, M-Tech Guy here. Now then, I've owned my E60 M5 for 3 years now. 3 years! And yes, it's that time of year again where we're going to take a look at what I've had to do to it during the last 12 months. Now if you've been following the channel, you'll have seen that I've done similar videos at the end of each year for the first 2 years of my ownership. What I'll do is I'll leave a link to them videos in the description below, so if you haven't seen them, it's worth checking them out. Alright, so straight into it. What have I done to my E60 M5 during the last year? Well, to start off with, we took a look at the metal wind deflector for the sunroof. It was making a clonking noise, very typical problem on these E60 M5s. It was clonking against the glass sunroof itself, so we got that sorted out first. And then next up, we got another very common problem fixed, and that was the driver's side cup holder. Yes, very, very important problem, but it's typical that often when you press the button, it won't pop open. Mine was getting to the stage where you'd have to press the button like 200 times before anything would happen, so we got the old one out of there, we got a new one fitted, and that's all working fantastic now. And then following on from that, I was finding that I was getting a bit of a creaking noise in the rear cab area, and I managed to narrow it down to the left rear door seal, the one that goes over the top of the rear window there on the door. So we got a new one fitted, and that eliminated that squeak there, so I was pleased to get that sorted out, so the cab's nice and quiet now. Okay, now moving on, a job that I did just recently was change out all 10 fuel injectors. Now, even though the original ones were working absolutely fine, the reason that I did this was just a bit of preventative maintenance, because what can happen over time is they can get blocked and cause your engine to hydrolock, and then it can end up costing you a huge amount of money. So I should have done this when I first got the car. I've kind of been putting it off, I've been busy with other bits and pieces, so finally got it done, and I'm really glad to get it done. And then other than them few items, it's just been the usual oil changes. Now, I haven't done that many miles in the car this year, so I've ended up doing 2 oil changes. But what I have found, especially with the last oil change that I did, is I'm not seeing any more of that copper glitter in the oil. Now, when I first bought this car, it had the rod bearings changed out just before I bought it, so just over 3 years ago. But what I found with the first few oil changes that I did was I was finding a little bit of copper glitter in the oil, and it was that wear material from the old rod bearings. Now that can hang around in your engine for a little while even when you get a new set of rod bearings in there, so it's worth going through a number of oil changes pretty close together just to get everything flushed out, because it can end up getting in your Vanos system, in the Vanos solenoids, but the main area that it accumulates is in the oil cooler. But just getting a number of oil changes done over the last 3 years, that's how long it's taken, I finally got to the stage where I'm not seeing any more of that copper glitter. And of course, with that new set of rod bearings in the engine, I've been super cautious on how I've operated this car, so I always make sure the oil's warmed up before I start driving it over 3,000 RPMs, before I start getting my foot down and having a bit of fun. And again, just keeping up with regular oil changes. You can't do enough oil changes on these cars, so if you have just bought one of these cars, however many you think you need to do, double it, and you can't go wrong that way. Alright guys, so there we have it. Now that's as far as I've got this year. That's all the parts I've changed out, all the repairs, all the maintenance in the last 12 months. And to be honest, I wish I had a bit more to talk about in this video, but maybe that's a good thing. And if there's one takeaway from this video, I think it will be that when you first buy one of these cars, it is worth spending a reasonable amount of money getting all the little niggles sorted out, but especially getting on the front foot with that preventative maintenance, getting it all sorted out early, and it's going to give you that peace of mind. It's going to save you wasting a lot of money later on, especially if something ugly rears its head. So if you are looking to buy one of these cars, just factor in a bit of money to have put aside, so when you do purchase it, you can get on top of that preventative maintenance. Alright, so during the last 3 years, how have I found the car, and how do I feel like it after 3 years of owning it? Well, to be honest, there's one thing for sure that stands out more than anything. The longer I own this car, the more I like it and the more impressed I am with it. It's an absolutely awesome car with a phenomenal engine. That V10, they're never going to make anything like it ever again. absolutely superb car, and I absolutely love working on it too. When you get stuck into that engine with the spanners, it always astounds me the level of engineering that went into it. Absolutely amazing. Now, what I have found with the car, in comparison to a number of big engine rear-wheel drive V8 old American stuff I've owned in the past, is this car doesn't have any low-end torque to speak of. Not really. All the power's in the top end of that power band. You've really got to wring it out to get that 507 horsepower out of it. But it is kind of cool in a way, because it does make it very civilized on the street when you're just driving normal, when you're cruising at them slow speeds. But in contrast, when you wring it out, when you ride up in that rev range, banging it through the gears, this car just pulls so hard. It's absolutely phenomenal. And the noise, oh man, the noise is just, yeah, I don't think I'll be ever selling this car. It's just absolutely amazing. And one thing that really stands out that I still can't get over is it doesn't matter how fast you're going in this car, it just keeps pulling and pulling and pulling. And I've never got to the stage, never got to the speed where it's starting to taper off, obviously because I'm either running out of road or I'm getting way beyond what the speed limit is. And I've always got to the stage where I've had to back off, but it just feels like it's just going to keep pulling and pulling forever. It's absolutely insane car, these E60 M5s. Alright, so after 3 years of ownership, would I recommend one of these cars? Well, if you're looking to buy one of these cars and you really want one, you'd be an absolute fool not to buy one right now, because they're right at the bottom of the depreciation curve, especially compared to everything else that just seems to have shot up into the stratosphere with prices during the last 2 years. These have kept pretty stable. They've crept up a little bit just starting, but it's not an ownership experience you want to go into lightly. It's not the kind of car that you can just jump in and drive straight away. You need to let the oil warm up properly. You don't want to wreck the engine. And like I've said before, you've got to get that preventative maintenance sorted out early on, so there is a reasonable amount of labour and expense involved. And if you don't get that sorted out, it's going to bite you in the ass big time. But the main problems with these cars can be prevented, can be mitigated with that preventative maintenance. Alright, so in the 3 years that I've owned the car, has the rod bearings made the engine explode? No. Is the SMG gearbox blown up? No. Does it shift clunky? Not really any more clunky than a regular manual gearbox. Does it drink fuel? Oh yes, that's the one big thing with these cars. However much you think it's going to go through fuel, it's going to go through fuel way quicker than what you think. I'm getting about 5 kilometers per litre the way I drive it, so just keep that in mind. If you are looking to buy one of these cars, you're going to be spending an absolute fortune on fuel just running the damn thing. Alright guys, so there we have it. That's what the 3rd year of E60 M5 ownership has looked like for me, the last 12 months of ownership. If you found the video interesting or useful, don't forget to give it a like, and make sure you go and check out the rest of my YouTube channel for more E60 M5 content. Consider subscribing if that's your cup of tea. I'm MTech Guy. Thanks a lot for watching.